Last year, for the World Autism Awareness Day, we had hosted a meeting for parents and we had shared our recent discoveries on what we call the six S's for stress management and for healthier lifestyle. And these six S's, Anant and I discovered with Ujjwal through a period of 2 years and include smile brightly and dance, storytelling, silence, self inquiry, surrender, and soothing chants. We had just discovered the soothing chants in February 2024, and it shifted our experiences with you, Ujjwal, because until then we were definitely coming for class and practicing the dance and so forth. But once that happened, I think it started shifting towards more of a lifestyle focus. So from that point, we started including uh, chants in the beginning and then self inquiry and so on into the daily living. And I think that's really changed our trajectory and changed the outcomes from what we have done with you. So I just wanted to have a follow up conversation because I think in the last 1 year, Anand's made tremendous progress because that, it's very interesting that we have such a specific point or point in time to mention. But from the time we discovered chants, we have made a tremendous amount of progress in handling stress. And I wanted to actually raise this topic for two reasons because it's not discussed very much, though I see more and more neurodivergent individuals sharing accounts of uh, their experiences with stress and especially burnout, which is constantly living in a world that's not designed for them and being, reacting to the sensory inputs and so many other challenges, and that cause them to have a really difficult time. And so, while people have heard of meltdowns and shutdowns, people have not heard as much about burnouts. But I think that's kind of where Anant was through a series of events that had unfolded in his life. So it's been a good month for us. The last month is sort of a transition to a much better place, though we've been working towards it little at a time. But I think finally, I feel like we can say that we are out of that phase. So I just wanted to, you know, ask you to speak a bit both about the arts and the Ramana Maharishi piece of it, because I feel that whatever has happened for Anant is through a combination of those two inputs. And that's why, like the term RAISE, which is Ramana Art Form Interventions for Self Awareness and Excellence, because I feel like it's the blending of the two that has really brought Anant where he is today.
Yes. Thank you, Ramaji. I mean, when you told about stress, when we were attending the classes for theater arts for holistic development, the art teacher just reminded us that the art should not be threatening. Art should be soothing and it should give us joy. So whenever when you are teaching art to any child, basically, so the art they should be able to grasp it and do it. It should not be very challenging, so that they lose interest in it. So that was the basic underlying factor which has stayed with me. So I always feel that the art should be beautiful and it should be accessible and people should be encouraged to continue in that process. I remember last time I had told about the salsa. The teacher who was in the first beginner session, he used to encourage everybody to dance, and he used to say, "Ah, you have a bright smile, you have a bright shirt," and like that. And he used to encourage each one to give their best. And once we continue this journey with the art, as Anand has continued his journey with me, so in the course of time, slowly there have been many, as you tell, the seeds of the values have been sown through Natya. So whenever we learn a new dance or whenever we learning new hastas or adavus, it gives us opportunities to sow the seed of these great spiritual values that we have. And basically what is spirituality is the understanding how to lead a happy life here and now. That's the basic purpose of spirituality. It's not about something you gain out of this world, but how to lead a happy life right here, right now. So the our combination of the Natya and the Ramana inputs that Anant is getting has surely helped us uh, tackle some situations whenever he's having a question or a conflict. Ramaji always puts me into a call with Anand. He said, Anand wants to have a short call with you. And what do we do in the call? We try to have a short THT session where we have a dance session where we are just we start with a prayer, just like how we start the class. And we in the course of learning a gesture or a course of learning a movement or a sahityam or an or a movement, we are actually we lead our conversation to something which is more deeper, to understand that current situation is only a phase which will pass by, and we had wonderful experiences before, and we can hold on to that, and it is surely going to come. And to understand that what is destined to happen will surely happen, but what is happening is the big picture is wonderful. We do not have that sight of that big picture to make us remind ourselves and understand that everything is happening for a good, and we have to have faith and continue our journey. And this may not solve all the problem, but actually may give us the strength to face the problem and find a solution. So I think this has been wonderfully helpful for Anant and myself when we are having a conversation through Natya. And we somehow this combination of Natya and Ramana brings about the change. And I see that soon we finish the conversation. Anand seems to be relaxed, and Anand seems to get what is being spoken, and it is working in some way. So I'm actually sometimes surprised, but I'm glad that it is happening that way. Yes, Ramaji, you want to add anything more to
Yes, I
this
actually just
experience?
wanted to, reminisce a bit about the latest call that Anand had with you, and now, of course, we've been through this process many times, so he's getting the regular Natya inputs, and then he's had some of these calls, and so this time it really struck me that you never even asked him what was bothering him and what was his what was the problem. So we had a laugh about it afterwards. We said, see, Ujjalan, I never even asked you what exactly was troubling you. And the other thing that I noticed was you just started off with your usual, hasta lesson, and you actually picked up the hand gestures that you had been recently working on. So it's like you're almost so that to me was interesting that whatever, regardless of his current situation or challenge or whatever is troubling him, you can just go back to whatever lesson you were doing then, and even something, you know, that somehow helps him. So then, several days later, he was actually remembered that you'd use that boat, row your boat, and you had talked about you know you know how in life we go
Life is but a
through.
dream.
Yes, and you go through the troubling times and not so troubling times and so on. And somehow he pulled on it several days later when we were talking about something else. So I think it's the combination of Natya and that value-based education, as you call it, because the thing is, when somebody's under stress, you can't really just sit him down and have a talk with him. It's not going to work. And I know that because that's what he does to me. He'll drag me into conversations and we'll be in an endless loop. So he'll keep bringing up ideas. And that's uh, to a great extent what we have learned from our Ramana experience too, is that stillness of mind and, how do you go towards that inner silence. But when the same thing is presented through Natya, and you're not specifically directly talking about the problem, but you're in a subtle way giving him some, you know, things to hold on to his situation, he's actually beginning to use it for sense making himself. So it's very interesting to see that process. And now sometimes, I'll ask him, if he's very stressed, and I'll say, do you need to talk to Ujjwal? And I'll say, no, I think I can handle it myself. So sometimes he can, and sometimes a day later he will give that call. So that's there. But the other interesting thing is that now, in the beginning, we had to come to the Ramana Maharshi Center for Learning, and he had these direct lessons. But now he knows that, if he's going through a period of stress, he can just, send an SOS to Ujjalana and have a conversation and it'll be taken care of. So it's been a very interesting experience to watch. There is, starting from what you said in the beginning of the conversation, which is that, you know, in the Natya experience itself, you are structuring it to minimize stress. So this is a big point. I think art can be very therapeutic, but I think it's also the orientation. If you have a performance orientation, make them learn the skills and quickly make them learn a dance and perform, it does not give that same, okay, let's just enjoy and let's take it easy and let's enjoy the process and let's see where it goes. So there are two different orientations here, and definitely some people might be in the game for, let's learn it and perform, and that may be what they want. But at least in Anand's case, it's been always take it slow, and we never know what we learn in the process. So that's the one side, that every class is an experience where it's non-threatening, safe, comfortable, and the environment helps too, because when it comes to RMCL, the classroom is big and he enjoys the dance there. So that's one side, which is the structured lessons uh, themselves are delivered in a way to minimize stress. But the other side is being then able to, when you have that situation, being able to access that Natya. So I think you've also been a very great, excellent resource for him whenever he's having these kind of stressful moments. So I just wanted to bring this up because I think it's that combination of Natya and Ramana. I come back to that because I think right from the beginning you've been um, giving the Ramana inputs through every dance class in a structured and consistent way. So you have, already built up that some understanding and stories, and he already has a bank of, ideas and stories in his mind. And so when we suddenly call on you for help, you're able to then, pull out something from the hat to, you know, and speak to the moment. So that's the point. If you can just say a few words about, Ramana teachings in particular, and how that, you know, can bring you to the place of calm and reduce stress.
Ramana's teachings are basically to have a stress-free, peaceful life. Because he says actually the happiness and peace is our own true nature. And whatever other things that we have, we call it stress, you call it thoughts, you call it emotions. He says he groups up and says they are all thoughts. And all thoughts are dependent on one source thought, which is called the I thought. That I am this body or I am this entity is the basic thought which gives rise to all the other thoughts, all the other emotions connected to this limited identity. But he tells us that we are actually not this limited identity that we are thinking. It's a false notion. So he tells us to, when we turn our attention away, where the thoughts are actually, we're moving away in search of worries and we are anxious. But instead, as soon as the thought arises, if you quickly ask, for whom is this thought? The answer is for me. And Ramana says, quickly ask the question, who am I? So this one thought of who am I, it cuts down all the other thoughts. It cuts down, if I don't know who am I, why am I worried? If I don't know who am I, why am I anxious? Is the next question which may come. So the attention is turned towards the I, the source of the I-ness that we are having within. We all feel that we all exist. But from where is this feeling arising? So it makes us turn towards that source. And if we hold on to this question, it destroys all the other thoughts and it also dissolves itself and revealing our own true nature, which is stress-free and which is without a tinge of fear or any anxiety, but which is fullness, which is full of happiness and bliss and peace. You're a mute, you're a mute.
So thank you, Ujjwal. I think that's a great introduction to both Natya and Ramana teachings, and they've come together in a very interesting way for us at a very critical time because we were definitely going through a lot of you know stressful experiences. So I think it's great to start looking into this a little bit. We are now, I think we have arrived at a place where we're able to sort of look back and say what, because a lot of it has been just happening, right? We've just been getting some of these inputs, and a lot of it has just sort of happened without a knowing. Like, who knew that we'd end up in Tiruvannamalai in that particular meditation hall at exactly the time when the Tamil Parayana was going on, and Anand came and said that this stopped the thoughts in his head. So there have been a lot of those kind of you know occurrences which have also made this take shape. But I think looking back, I do feel that it's that combination of Ramana and arts, and that's why I'm really fond of Rays, because it brings those two together very explicitly. And the I actually think even Bharatanatyam plays a role in that. I feel that. I think it's actually a combination because it's Natya's theater, and it can be Natya can be anything. But I think the one of the reasons Bharatanatyam really works well is it's very structured, and I think one of the reasons you've been able to deliver Ramana in such a incremental and structured way is because of how you've woven it through the building blocks of Bharatanatyam. Because you have all these Ramana stories with the each hand gesture and with the the basic movement sequences, adavas, and so on. So I think that has helped you bring in Ramana teachings in very small chunks, and in a way you're building it up in a very gradual way over time. So that's another conversation because it's a pretty important topic, I think. But I think the main thing is that the combination of Natya and Ramana teachings have really made a difference in terms of how Anand's handling stress today. But I also feel one more thing, and this is the most important point. Every time if you get into a very stressful situation and you're somehow digging yourself out, that's not really a long-term solution. That's my point, right? And it's the same thing, all that I hear about, oh, autistic people have meltdowns, or they have burnouts, or they have shutdowns. And for the most part, it's dealt with as a behavior. Well, if somebody has a meltdown, how do you respond to that? But that doesn't really address the core of the problem. Why is this person having a meltdown? They're really overwhelmed. Or why is this person likely to have a burnout because of all the challenges they have? But if you really teach them to live their life in a certain way, I think all of these can be mitigated. Whether we can reach 100% elimination of all of these, I don't know, but at least we can really do our bit to address that. And so that's what I feel that we've made a lot of progress in, that now we have a very structured daily rhythm where we have all these Natya elements and the Ramana elements woven in. So he'll listen to the chant several times a day, and all the Natya practice several times a day. So that's the thought I want to leave with, because I think you have great inputs, but then it also has to percolate into your daily life. And once it does that, I think it probably starts to shift your life in a different direction. So that's hopefully where we are headed, and we'll wait and see. But at least, so far we have come a long way, and many thanks to you for helping us on this path.
Thank you.